I used to think the worst thing about being married was sharing a bathroom. Turns out, I was spectacularly wrong. The worst thing is discovering your wife's been treating your marriage like a revolving door while you've been working 60-hour weeks to pay for her Instagram lifestyle. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Jack Turner, and 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. Decent job as a financial analyst at Morrison & Associates, nice house in Cedar Park, and a wife who looked like she stepped out of a fitness magazine. Olivia had that effortless blonde beauty that made other men stare and made me feel like I'd won some cosmic lottery. What I didn't realize was that I'd actually bought a ticket to my own personal hell. It started with little things. Olivia would disappear for hours, claiming she was at yoga or meeting her friend Tessa for lunch. She'd come home with that glow people get after a good workout, except her yoga mat was always bone dry. Her phone became surgically attached to her hand, and she'd angle it away whenever I walked by. "Who are you texting?" I'd ask, trying to keep my tone light. "Just Tessa," she'd reply, not looking up. "Girl stuff." Girl stuff. That phrase became the wall between us, growing higher every day. The house felt different, too. I'd walk into rooms and feel like I was interrupting something, even when Olivia was alone. It was like being a ghost in your own life, watching someone else live in your space while you paid all the bills. My buddy Pete from work noticed it first. We were grabbing beers at Rusty's Tavern after another brutal day of spreadsheets and client meetings. "You look like hell, Turner," he said, signaling the bartender for another round. "When's the last time you slept?" "Sleep's overrated," I muttered, staring into my beer. "Besides, Olivia's been on this health kick. Early morning workouts, late evening yoga sessions. The house is like a meditation retreat." Pete raised an eyebrow. "Meditation retreat? Dude, your wife posts more selfies than a teenage influencer. Since when is she into inner peace?" He had a point. Olivia's Instagram was a carefully curated showcase of her perfect life. Designer workout clothes, green smoothies, motivational quotes about living your truth. Her follower count had exploded over the past year, and she'd even landed a few sponsorship deals with local boutiques and wellness brands. "Maybe she's just finding herself," I said, but even I didn't believe it. "Or maybe she's finding someone else," Pete replied, then immediately looked apologetic. "Sorry, man, that was out of line." But the seed was planted. Over the next few weeks, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Olivia's yoga sessions always seemed to coincide with times when I'd be stuck late at the office. Her friend Tessa, who supposedly spent so much time with my wife, looked genuinely confused when I mentioned their recent lunch dates at our neighborhood barbecue. "Lunch dates?" Tessa had said, tilting her head. "We haven't done lunch in weeks. I've been swamped with the kids' school stuff." That's when the pieces started falling into place like dominoes in an earthquake. I began documenting things. Not because I wanted to catch her, but because I needed to prove to myself that I was being paranoid. The late-night Uber receipts I found in her purse. The new lingerie that never made an appearance in our bedroom. The way she'd shower immediately after coming home from her workouts. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening in March. I'd gotten home early for once, hoping to surprise Olivia with dinner from her favorite Thai place. The house was empty, but her car was in the driveway. I called out, thinking maybe she was in the backyard or taking a bath. That's when I heard it. Laughter, coming from our bedroom. My heart stopped. Then it started beating so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I crept up the stairs, each step feeling like it took an hour. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, and through the gap, I could see Olivia on our bed, wearing the black lace set I'd never seen before. She wasn't alone. The man with her was Miles Garrett, local real estate mogul and the kind of guy who wore expensive suits to casual barbecues. He owned half the new developments in Cedar Park and had the kind of smug confidence that came from never being told no. I stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds, watching my marriage implode in real time. Then Olivia laughed at something Miles said, and the sound hit me like a physical blow. I backed away from the door, grabbed my keys, and left. I drove around for 3 hours, my mind completely blank, except for the sound of that laugh echoing in my head. When I finally came home, Olivia was in the kitchen, wearing yoga pants and a tank top, scrolling through her phone. "Hey, babe," she said without looking up. "How was work?" "Fine," I managed. "How was yoga?" Great. Really worked up a sweat today." She glanced at me briefly, then back at her phone. "I'm exhausted. Think I'll head to bed early." I watched her walk upstairs, and something inside me crystallized. The hurt was still there, burning like acid in my chest, but underneath it was something colder. something calculating. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. I was going to be smart about this. The next morning, I called in sick to work and made an appointment with the best divorce attorney in Austin. Then I hired a private investigator. If Olivia wanted to play games, I was going to make sure I knew all the rules. The private investigator's name was Sarah Chen, and she had the kind of no-nonsense demeanor that made me feel like I was finally talking to someone who lived in the real world. Her office was sparse, but professional, with certificates on the wall and a coffee mug that read, "World's Okayest PI." "Adultery cases are unfortunately common," she said, sliding a contract across her desk. "The good news is that people having affairs tend to get sloppy. They think they're smarter than they are. How long do these investigations usually take?" "Depends on how careful they're being, but based on what you've told me, I'd say we'll have what we need within 2 weeks." She was wrong. It took 4 days. Sarah called me at work on a Friday afternoon. "Can you meet me at my office at 6? And Jack, you might want to bring a friend." I called Pete, who agreed to meet me there without asking questions. That's the thing about real friends. They show up when you need them, even when they don't know why. Sarah had photos, lots of them. Olivia and Miles entering and leaving hotels, Olivia and Miles at restaurants across town, Olivia and Miles in his car, parked in secluded spots around the city. "They've been meeting regularly for about 8 months, Sarah explained. "Always when you're at work, always in places where they think they won't be recognized." Pete let out a low whistle. 8 months? Jesus, Jack. But Sarah wasn't done. "There's something else. Your wife is pregnant." The words hit me like a truck. "What?" "She had an appointment at Women's Health Associates last week. I followed her there, and she was carrying pamphlets about prenatal care when she left." My legs felt weak. Olivia and I had been trying to have kids for 2 years. She'd always said the timing wasn't right, that she wanted to focus on building her brand first. But apparently the timing was perfect for Miles Garrett's baby. "I need a DNA test," I said. Sarah nodded. "I figured you might. I have a contact at a lab who can handle this discreetly. But Jack, you should know. If this baby isn't yours, and you can prove the affair, you're looking at a very different kind of divorce settlement." That weekend, Olivia was unusually affectionate. She made my favorite breakfast, curled up next to me on the couch while we watched Netflix, and even suggested we go for a walk around the neighborhood like we used to do when we were first married. "I've been thinking," she said, as we strolled past the perfectly manicured lawns of our subdivision. "Maybe it's time we started trying for a family." I almost laughed. The audacity was breathtaking. "Really? I thought you wanted to wait until your influencer career took off." "I did, but I've been reevaluating my priorities." She squeezed my hand. "I think I'm ready to be a mom." "That's great, honey. Really great." She had no idea I already knew she was pregnant. She had no idea I'd been collecting evidence of her affair for weeks. She thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers, but the truth was, I'd flipped the entire board. The DNA results came back the following Tuesday. I was sitting in my car in the Morrison & Associates parking lot when Sarah called. "It's not yours, Jack. I'm sorry." I should have felt devastated. Instead, I felt liberated. The last 8 months suddenly made perfect sense. Olivia's distance, her secretiveness, her sudden interest in finding herself. It had all been leading to this moment when she'd try to pass off another man's child as mine. "What's my next move?" I asked. "That depends. How badly do you want to hurt her?" I thought about that laugh I'd heard coming from our bedroom. I thought about the lies, the manipulation, the way she'd made me feel like I was losing my mind for months. Pretty badly. "Then we're going to need to be very strategic about this." That evening, Olivia was in the kitchen, making what looked like a very elaborate dinner. Candles were lit, wine was breathing on the counter, and she was wearing the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. "What's the occasion?" I asked. She turned around with a smile that would have melted me 6 months ago. "Can't a wife make a special dinner for her husband?" We ate in relative silence, making small talk about work and her latest Instagram collaborations. She seemed nervous, fidgeting with her napkin and barely touching her food. Finally, as I was finishing my second glass of wine, she reached across the table and took my hand. "Jack, I have something to tell you." Here it comes, I thought. I'm pregnant. I stared at her for a long moment, letting the silence stretch between us. Her smile began to waver. That's wonderful news, honey," I finally said. "How far along are you?" "About 8 weeks. I wanted to wait until I was sure before I told you." 8 weeks. Right around the time Sarah's photos showed Olivia and Miles getting particularly cozy at the Marriott downtown. "Have you told anyone else?" "Not yet. I wanted you to be the first to know. She squeezed my hand. We're going to be parents, Jack. Can you believe it? No, I said honestly. I really can't. She laughed, misinterpreting my tone completely. I know, right? It feels surreal. I've already started looking at baby names and nursery ideas. I was thinking we could convert the guest room. I let her talk, nodding and smiling at appropriate moments while my mind raced. She was good. I had to give her that. The performance was flawless. If I hadn't known the truth, I would have been over the moon, but I did know the truth. And tomorrow, I was going to start using it. I filed for divorce at 9 a.m. sharp the next morning. My attorney, Margaret Walsh, was a steel-haired woman in her 50s who had a reputation for leaving opposing counsel in smoking ruins. This is going to be ugly, she warned me as she reviewed the evidence Sarah had compiled. When we present this in court, it's going to destroy her reputation completely. Good, I said. She should have thought about that before she decided to make a fool of me for 8 months. What about the pregnancy announcement? Are you going to confront her about that directly? I'd been thinking about this all night. Not yet. I want to see how far she's willing to take this lie. Margaret smiled grimly. You're going to let her dig her own grave. Exactly. I went to work as usual, but I couldn't concentrate on spreadsheets and client portfolios. Every few minutes, I'd check my phone, waiting for the process server to confirm that Olivia had been served with the divorce papers. The call came at 2:47 p.m. Papers delivered, the server reported. She seemed surprised. Surprised was probably an understatement. I imagined Olivia opening the door expecting a delivery from Amazon and instead receiving legal documents that would blow up her carefully constructed world. My phone started ringing 20 minutes later. Olivia's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. By 4 p.m., I had 7 missed calls and a series of increasingly frantic text messages. Jack, call me. There's been some kind of mistake. This is insane. Why are you doing this? We need to talk. I'm pregnant with your baby. That last message made me laugh out loud. Pete, who was working at the desk next to mine, looked over with concern. You okay, man? You're starting to scare me. I'm better than okay, I said. I'm free. I drove home slowly, taking the long way through downtown Austin. I wanted to give Olivia time to process what was happening, time to realize that her perfect plan was falling apart. She was waiting for me in the living room, the divorce papers spread out on the coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. Her eyes were red from crying, and her hands were shaking. Jack, what is this? What's happening? I sat down across from her, maintaining eye contact. It's exactly what it looks like. I'm divorcing you. But why? We're having a baby. We're finally going to have the family we always wanted. Are we? I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo Sarah had taken of her and Miles leaving the Marriott. Because this doesn't look like family planning to me. The color drained from her face. For a moment, she just stared at the photo, and I could see her mind racing, trying to figure out how to spin this. Jack, I can explain. Can you? Because I have about 50 more photos, just like this one. 8 months' worth of evidence, Olivia. 8 months of you sneaking around with Miles Garrett while I worked my ass off to pay for your lifestyle. She started crying harder, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, nothing but cold satisfaction. It didn't mean anything, she sobbed. It was just, I was confused and lonely, and you were always working. So it's my fault? No, that's not what I meant. Jack, please, we can work through this. I'll end things with Miles. We can go to counseling. Think about the baby. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our perfect suburban street. Whose baby, Olivia? The question hung in the air like smoke. When I turned back around, she was staring at me with something approaching panic. What do you mean? It's our baby. Your baby. I pulled out a folded piece of paper from my jacket pocket and handed it to her. DNA results. The baby you're carrying isn't mine. She unfolded the paper with trembling hands, scanning the technical language and percentages. When she looked back up at me, something had changed in her expression. The tears had stopped, and there was a hardness in her eyes I'd never seen before. You had me followed. I had my cheating wife investigated. There's a difference. You bastard. You sneaky, pathetic bastard. There was the real Olivia. Not the crying, apologetic woman who'd been begging for forgiveness, but the cold, calculating person who'd been manipulating me for months. I'm the bastard. You were going to let me raise another man's child and never tell me the truth. You would have been a good father, better than Miles will ever be. So you admit it? The baby is his? She stood up, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Fine, yes, it's Miles's baby. But Jack, you have to understand. I don't have to understand anything. I want you out of this house by the end of the week. You can't kick me out. This is my home, too. Actually, I can. Check the deed. The house is in my name only. You never contributed to the mortgage payments, remember? You were too busy building your brand. The look she gave me could have melted steel. I'll fight this. I'll take you for everything you're worth. With what? Your affair partner's baby as evidence? Good luck with that. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, then turned back one last time. This isn't over, Jack. You think you're so smart, but you have no idea what you're up against. Try me. She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I poured myself a scotch and sat back down on the couch, surrounded by the wreckage of my marriage. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The next few days were a blur of phone calls, legal meetings, and awkward encounters with neighbors who'd heard about the divorce through the suburban gossip network. Word travels fast in Cedar Park, especially when it involves adultery and pregnancy scandals. Tessa showed up at my door on Thursday evening with a casserole and a guilty expression. "I'm so sorry, Jack," she said as I invited her in. "I had no idea what Olivia was doing. If I'd known..." "You would have what? Told me?" She set the casserole on the kitchen counter and turned to face me. "Honestly, I don't know. She's been my friend for 3 years. But what she did to you, it's unforgivable." "Did you suspect anything?" Tessa sighed and sat down at the kitchen table. Looking back, there were signs. She'd cancel plans at the last minute, always had excuses for why she couldn't hang out. And she was always on her phone, even when we were together. I thought maybe she was just stressed about the influencer stuff. "What about Miles? Did you know they were involved?" "God, no. I mean, I knew who he was. Everyone in the neighborhood does. But I never saw them together. Olivia was careful about that." "Not careful enough." Tessa reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "For what it's worth, I think you're handling this incredibly well. A lot of men would have lost their minds by now." "Who says I haven't?" She laughed, but there was concern in her eyes. "Just be careful, okay? Olivia's not taking this well, and when she's backed into a corner, she can be pretty vindictive." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "You think you've won? But this is just the beginning. You'll regret destroying our family." I showed the message to Tessa, who shook her head. "She's using a burner phone. That's not a good sign." "Should I be worried?" "Probably. Olivia's always been dramatic, but I've never seen her this angry." After Tessa left, I called Margaret Walsh to report the threatening message. She advised me to document everything and consider getting a restraining order if the harassment escalated. "Has she tried to contact you through social media?" Margaret asked. "I blocked her on everything the day I filed." "Good. But you should know, she's been posting about the divorce on Instagram. Nothing directly defamatory, but she's painting herself as the victim of a cruel husband who abandoned his pregnant wife." I hadn't thought about the social media angle. Olivia had over 15,000 followers, and her posts regularly got hundreds of likes and comments. If she was spinning the narrative in her favor, it could complicate things. Can she do that legally? As long as she's not making false statements of fact, yes. But Jack, this could get messy. If she's willing to lie to her followers, she might be willing to lie in court too. That weekend, I ran into Miles Garrett at the grocery store. He was in the produce section, examining avocados like he was choosing diamonds. When he spotted me, for a moment, we just stared at each other across the vegetables. Then he walked over. "Jack Turner, right? I think we need to talk." Miles was taller than I'd expected, probably 6'2", with the kind of artificially perfect smile that screamed expensive dental work. He was wearing a polo shirt that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. "I don't think we have anything to discuss," I said, continuing to shop. "Actually, we do. This situation with Olivia, it's gotten out of hand." I turned to face him fully. "Situation? Is that what you're calling it?" "Look, I know you're upset. You have every right to be. But there are better ways to handle this than dragging everyone through a public divorce." "Everyone? You mean you?" His smile faltered slightly. "I have a business to run, a reputation to maintain. This kind of scandal, it's not good for anyone. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with my wife. Olivia and I, we didn't plan for this to happen. Sometimes these things just develop naturally." The casual way he said it, like adultery was as inevitable as the weather, made me freeze. "Naturally. There's nothing natural about what you did. You pursued a married woman for months. You got her pregnant, and now you want me to quietly disappear so you don't have to face the consequences? I'm not asking you to disappear. I'm asking you to be reasonable. We could work out some kind of arrangement. An arrangement? Financial compensation. Enough to help you start over somewhere else. Austin's a big city. You could find a new job, a new life. I stared at him in disbelief. You're trying to buy me off. I'm trying to solve a problem in a way that benefits everyone. Everyone except me, you mean? His smile disappeared entirely. Don't be naive, Jack. You can't win this fight. I have resources you can't imagine. Lawyers, connections, influence. If you push this, I'll bury you. Is that a threat? It's a fact. I set down my shopping basket and stepped closer to him. Let me give you a fact, Miles. I have 8 months of documented evidence of your affair with my wife. Photos, hotel receipts, credit card statements. I have DNA proof that the baby she's carrying is yours, not mine. And I have a very good lawyer who specializes in making men like you pay for their mistakes. For the first time since our conversation started, Miles looked uncertain. So here's my counteroffer, I continued. Stay away from me, stay away from my house, and pray that I don't decide to make this divorce even more public than it already is. Because if you think this is bad for your reputation now, wait until I start sharing those photos with your business partners. I picked up my basket and walked away, leaving him standing there among the avocados. My hands were shaking with adrenaline, but I felt better than I had in weeks. The war was just beginning, and I was finally ready to fight. By Monday morning, Olivia had moved out of the house and into a furnished apartment across town. She'd taken most of her clothes and personal items, but she'd left behind all the furniture, artwork, and household goods we'd accumulated during our marriage. I suspected she was planning to claim them in the divorce settlement. What she didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything. Photos of every room, receipts for every major purchase, proof of who had paid for what. Margaret Walsh had taught me well. The real surprise came when I checked Olivia's Instagram account from a friend's phone. She'd posted a series of photos showing her new apartment, along with a lengthy caption about new beginnings and finding strength in difficult times. Sometimes life forces you to make hard choices, she'd written. I'm learning to stand on my own and build a better future for my baby. Thank you to everyone who has supported me during this challenging time. Your love means everything. New beginnings. Single mom. Stronger together. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. Hundreds of followers offering encouragement, sharing their own stories of difficult divorces, and praising her courage. She'd managed to completely reframe the narrative, turning herself from an adulteress into a brave single mother escaping a bad marriage. It was masterfully done, and it pissed me off beyond belief. That evening, I got a call from my neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, an elderly woman who lived 3 houses down and seemed to know everything that happened in our subdivision. Jack, dear, I hope you don't mind me calling. I just wanted you to know that I saw everything. Saw what, Mrs. Rodriguez? That man, the one who's been coming to your house when you were at work. I have security cameras, you know. I've been documenting his visits for months. I nearly dropped the phone. You have footage of Miles Garrett at my house? Is that his name? Well-dressed man, drives a fancy white car? That's him. Oh yes, I have hours of footage. I was going to mind my own business, but after seeing what that girl posted on the internet about being a poor single mother, well, that just didn't sit right with me. Mrs. Rodriguez had inadvertently become my secret weapon. Her security system covered not just her property, but also had a clear view of my driveway and front door. She'd captured Miles arriving and leaving, sometimes staying for hours while I was at work. Would you be willing to share that footage with my attorney? Absolutely. That girl has been lying to everyone, making you look like the villain. It's not right. The next day, Margaret and I reviewed Mrs. Rodriguez's footage. It was even better than I'd hoped. Clear shots of Miles's car in my driveway, timestamps showing he'd been there during work hours, and in several clips you could see him and Olivia embracing on the front porch. This is gold, Margaret said. We can use this to counter any claims she makes about the timeline of the affair. Can we make it public? Legally, yes. But are you sure you want to go that route? Once you release this, there's no going back. I thought about Olivia's Instagram post, about the way she'd manipulated the story to make herself look like the victim. I thought about Miles trying to buy me off in the grocery store. Do it. Margaret helped me create an anonymous social media account and posted a compilation of the security footage on several platforms. The video was titled The Truth About Olivia Turner's Difficult Marriage and included timestamps and dates showing the pattern of Miles's visits. The response was immediate and brutal. Within hours, the video had been shared hundreds of times. The comments on Olivia's Instagram posts shifted from supportive to savage. People who had been praising her courage were now calling her a liar and a cheater. Several of her sponsorship partners posted public statements distancing themselves from her. My phone rang constantly. Friends, coworkers, and even people I barely knew were calling to offer support or ask for details. The local gossip blogs picked up the story, and by Wednesday, it had made the Austin American Statesman's lifestyle section. But the real satisfaction came when Tessa called to tell me about Olivia's reaction. "She's completely lost it," Tessa said. "She called me crying, screaming about how you'd ruined her life. She thinks you're some kind of criminal mastermind." All I did was tell the truth. I know, but she can't handle the fact that people are seeing her for who she really is. She's been living in this fantasy world where she's the victim, and now reality is crashing down. What about Miles? How's he handling the attention? That's the best part. His wife found out about the affair and filed for divorce. Apparently, she's taking him for half of everything, including his business. And several of his investors are pulling out because they don't want to be associated with the scandal. The dominoes were falling exactly as I'd hoped. Olivia and Miles had thought they could have their affair in secret, with no consequences for their actions. Now they were learning that every choice has a price. But I wasn't done yet. 3 weeks later, I was having dinner at Romano's, a small Italian place downtown, when Olivia walked in. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, she'd lost weight, and there were dark circles under her eyes. She spotted me immediately and walked over to my table. "We need to talk," she said, sitting down without being invited. "I don't think we have anything to discuss." "Please, Jack. Just 5 minutes." I signaled the waiter to bring another glass of wine, then leaned back in my chair. "Fine, talk." "You've destroyed my life. You know that, right? I've lost my sponsors, my followers are turning on me, and I can't get a job anywhere because everyone knows about the video." "Actions have consequences, Olivia. You made your choices." "I made a mistake. People make mistakes. But what you did? It's cruel and vindictive and completely out of proportion to what happened." "Out of proportion? You had an 8-month affair, got pregnant with another man's child, and tried to trick me into raising it. What would have been a proportional response?" "I never meant for it to go this far. The thing with Miles, it just happened. And when I found out I was pregnant, I panicked. I thought if I could just make things work with you, we could be a family. A family built on lies. Yes, but we could have worked through it. People do it all the time. But instead, you decided to humiliate me publicly and ruin my reputation." I took a sip of wine and studied her face. She looked genuinely broken, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Do you want to know the worst part, Olivia? It's not the cheating, although that was bad enough. It's not even the pregnancy, although trying to trick me into raising another man's child was pretty despicable. The worst part is how easily you lied to me. For 8 months, you looked me in the eye every day and lied. You made me feel crazy for suspecting something was wrong. You made me doubt my own instincts." "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix anything. Sorry doesn't give me back the months I spent thinking I was losing my mind. Sorry doesn't undo the fact that you were planning to let me believe that baby was mine for the rest of my life." She started crying again, but this time it felt different. Less manipulative, more genuine. "What do you want from me, Jack? What can I do to make this right?" "Nothing. There's nothing you can do. The divorce will be final in 6 weeks, and then we'll never have to see each other again." "What about the baby? What about it? It's not my child. It's not my responsibility." "But you could be part of its life. You could be a father figure." "Absolutely not. That child has a father, Miles Garrett. Let him deal with the consequences of his actions." She wiped her eyes with a napkin. "Miles wants nothing to do with the baby. He says it would complicate his own divorce." "Then you should have thought about that before you got involved with a married man." "So that's it? You're just going to walk away and leave me to handle this alone?" "You're not my problem anymore, Olivia. You stopped being my problem the moment you decided to cheat." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her processing the finality of my words. "I used to think you were weak," she said finally. "All those years, I thought you were just this passive, boring guy who would never stand up for himself. I guess I was wrong." "Yeah, you were." She stood up to leave, then turned back one last time. "You know what's funny? I actually loved you, Jack. Not the way I loved Miles, but I did love you. You were safe and stable and kind. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted excitement and passion and drama. Now I have all the drama I can handle, and I'd give anything to have that boring, stable life back." "Too bad. You can't unbake a cake?" She nodded slowly. "No, I guess you can't." After she left, I finished my dinner alone, thinking about everything that had happened over the past few months. The investigation, the divorce proceedings, the public humiliation campaign. It had all been leading to this moment. I felt empty. Not sad, not angry, just empty. like I'd been carrying a heavy weight for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to put it down. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. "How did it go?" "It's over," I typed back. "Good. Ready to start living again?" I looked around the restaurant, at the couples sharing intimate dinners and the families celebrating birthdays, and realized that for the first time in months, I could imagine myself being part of that world again. "Yeah," I replied. "I think I am." 6 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. Olivia got nothing except her personal belongings and a small settlement that would barely cover her medical expenses. I kept the house, the savings, and my dignity. Miles Garrett's real estate empire collapsed under the weight of his scandal and his own expensive divorce. Last I heard, he'd moved to Dallas to start over. Olivia had the baby, a girl, and named her Hope. The irony wasn't lost on me. She's working as a receptionist at a dental office now, her dreams of influencer fame permanently derailed by her own choices. As for me, I'm doing fine. Better than fine, actually. I got a promotion at work, started dating again, and even bought a new car. Something I'd wanted to do for years, but never could, because Olivia insisted we needed to save money for her business ventures. Sometimes I run into people who knew us as a couple, and they ask if I miss being married. The honest answer is no. I don't miss the constant anxiety, the feeling of walking on eggshells, or the nagging suspicion that something was wrong. What I learned from this whole experience is that sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you turns out to be the best thing. Olivia's betrayal freed me from a marriage that was slowly suffocating me. Her lies revealed truths about myself that I might never have discovered otherwise. I'm stronger now, more confident, less willing to accept behavior that doesn't serve me. And while I wouldn't wish the pain of betrayal on anyone, I'm grateful for the lessons it taught me. The dividend of betrayal, it turns out, is wisdom, and that's worth more than any marriage built on lies.